to another episode of a Wicked Parley. Yes, today I bring the bear back.
We have the bear and the rose, much like our special, everybody.
Yeah, I know, right? So today is going to be featuring a whole bunch of interesting things, ranging from the discussion of what is exactly fanfiction, what does it mean for people, and how awesome is it? And because I am not the absolute most knowledgeable individual when it comes to fanfiction, I will not be the one who's going to be responding to many of the questions and discussion elements. I'll be jabbing here and there, but the lovely Rose will be taking the part of the primary position for host for this particular episode. So hopefully
Hello,
you'll
everybody.
enjoy the content. Yeah.
Hopefully. Let's hope I do good. Let's go.
Yeah.
Alright, so how
So
does that...
so just before anything, are you excited about being the host in this position?
This is a little strange. This is a little tiny tad bit strange.
Yeah, it is strange. There was one thing that I want to mention real quick. Host.
Oh, here we go.
Host, I have one thing to say to you, sir. I've noticed that there's been a person who has, been waiting around for about an hour before the show shows up, pretty frequently. And if that's you, host, I just want to say thank you for your dedication, and it's really appreciated. But the show will always begin around 9 o'clock. So if you're on, an hour beforehand, I mean, I'm not sure what you're doing, but just let you know, you don't necessarily need to do that. Anyways.
Much appreciated, though.
But seriously, though, much appreciated.
Alright. First things first?
Yes,
Definitions?
definitions. And when it comes to definitions, one of the first definitions we're going to talk about is a fan. And Rose, would you please enlighten us to what exactly is a fan?
Yeah, not the electronic one. So, for the most part, we're going to follow these two definitions. An enthusiastic devotee, as of a sport or performing art, usually as a spectator, or an ardent admirer or enthusiast, as of a celebrity or a pursuit. Rather than just a celebrity or a pursuit, a fan can be of any content, to be honest, whether that be a book, a movie, TV show, whatever is considered original content.
Playing cards.
Sometimes.
Woo! Alright, yeah, playing cards works.
Yeah. So, the main topic for today.
So, the next one is what is fan fiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, describe to us what is fan fiction.
So this one's the more common thing that people think of when somebody hears the term fanfiction. They are stories involving popular fictional characters that are written by fans and often posted on the internet. They don't always have to be posted, though. Some people write fanfiction but don't ever publish.
Yep, I know someone like that.
I know a lot of friends like that. But this is the main and common definition, although I will expand on it after the break.
And it's also called a fanfic, right?
Yes,
that's for short.
For short.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the next topic is what is it? Fandom, right?
Mm-hmm. Fandom.
Fandom.
So, all the fans, as of the sport, not in this case though, or the state or attitude of being a fan.
So does this count like the soccer mom who like wears like a Star Wars hoodie, or like the dad who's like got a minion?
Yeah, that sounds accurate. If you do something that kind of, is fashioned or based off of original content that was not created by you, you're gonna be a part of the fandom. As soon as you become a fan, you're a part of the fandom.
I see.
You kind of only leave it when you have absolutely nothing to do with it anymore.
Okay. So, in order to left the fandom, you mean you have nothing to contribute? So if you like something, but you're like, I'm not really like doing anything, like that's still, are you in the fandom, or?
You're still in the fandom, just not really a active creator in the fandom, because you can obviously still like something, you can partake in what others are creating in it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you leave the fandom, it's because sometimes you, or more often than not, you just don't even want anything to do with it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you leave it for another fandom, which is a lot of times people can be in multiple fandoms, but if you kind of fall out of love with the series, you kind of stop being a part of the fandom, in a good way at least.
It's like one of those painless breakups, you know. You're just like, and
Kind
it's
of.
gone.
Kind of. But those are the official definitions. I'm going to be using quite a number of terms which are, for me, going to be common because I come across them all the time, but to a lot of people they actually aren't common. So if I throw one at you, feel free to stop me and have me define it.
I will, 100%.
Like, there have been 3 that we've found so far that may come up in later conversations, so let me get those out of the way.
Yes, please.
The first one is a chatfic, which is a piece of fan fiction that is based on more of a group text format. It's formatted exactly like you would see on a group conversation on your phone, on your tablet, any messaging app really. There are sometimes extra pieces of prose here and there to add to the story, actually structured literature elements to the story, but for the most part they're based off of something that looks like it could be found on a phone.
I'm gonna say this right now. I still like the start of this conversation. I still don't really get what a chatfic even looks like. I've seen fan fiction, seen lots of it, but a chatfic, it just makes me think of like a chat room that just gone out of control.
Oh, that is the short way to go about it, and most of the time it is just as chaotic, if not more so, because these are fictional characters, which can often contain superpowers.
So it's almost
Imagine
like
that.
So it's almost like having like a D&D, like
Kind
but
of, yeah.
but everyone's in control of the same character.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
kind of. It gets monstrous. Sometimes they're entertaining, and they're mostly for entertainment purposes rather than like any plot reasons, unless it's to reveal something about a character later. But I can get into all that detail later.
Fun. What's the next one?
The next one is a tag. So these are more on Archive of Our Own, which I'll put into the chat later for the list of sites that I've used or heard of. A tag is mostly a label to help organize stories. Usually the ones I've seen are listing characters, sometimes genres, warnings if a story needs them, and certain tropes that may be common across a number of stories.
What are some examples of some tropes that are used?
Tropes? Usually alternative universes. There are some where it's like these 2 characters are actually friends and not completely like dead set on killing each other.
Okay, so like the What If franchise from Marvel?
Yeah, the What If yeah, pretty much. There are like alternate universes. There are, of course, this person. One of the most common ones, which is hilarious to me, is that they will just have a tag that it's just meant to say that this character is going to be very sad.
Okay.
The tags are more of a filtering system for people who want to see certain stories or read certain stories, and they can also be used as a blacklisting system for those who don't want to see those particular tags.
Filter them out. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
So they can filter things to be in your search, or they can completely blacklist them out.
Makes total sense. So what's the next term?
The last one that showed up recently was when I used the term shipping, which, for those in the fandom, is usually the act of pairing 2 characters together that sometimes are canons. That's another one, I'll explain it a bit. Sometimes are official in the actual content, and sometimes they're just shipped together by fans because they want to see the people dating.
So, like, would it be an example? It'd be like of shipping is like if someone were watching Superman versus Batman, and they ship Superman and Batman together.
Yeah, that's absolutely a possible ship.
Okay.
People can ship really weird pairings, which actually has a term for it.
Okay.
They can ship people that look to be good friends in the official content but never actually got together. They can absolutely also ship people who actually did get together in the official content.
Okay.
And there's one more term that just popped up in the conversation just now that I'm not quite sure that everybody kind of knows, which is the term canon, and it's spelled C-A-N-O-N, not the cannon as in firing.
Yeah, like a boomstick.
Yeah, boomstick. So that canon is just another term for official content that is actually true and original to the content, to the series,
I
to
feel
the
like
franchise itself.
yeah, I feel like a lot of people have probably heard the word canon before because
Yeah, I
of
just
all
want
the,
to double check.
yeah, because of all the uproar with Star Wars, and like they're dumping up so much of the stories that were surrounding the Star Wars films.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
Alright, but for the most part, those are the definitions, and again, if something pops up that you don't recognize, feel free to ask.
And don't worry, and if you guys don't ask, I will, because I'm an idiot. I think we all know that at this point.
Those are some of the different links that I've seen or used when partaking in fanfiction. Fanfiction.net, which is a relatively old one. Archive of Our Own with a really... It's updated as time goes on. And Wattpad, I haven't used a lot, but I've seen it mentioned quite often in other fanfiction.
Yeah.
Oh lord.
And host, I understand. You know, people have busy lives, and you're just doing what you can. I got you. I was just concerned for you. Okay, buddy. Just wanted to say that now. And here's the other thing. I don't think that's actually a bad fanfic idea about the Bruce Wayne thing. I think it could be funny. So I mean, hey, I think that's something to work with. All right, I think I think it's time for a break. What do you think there, Rose?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, so we'll see you guys all in 2 minutes.
See ya.
Welcome back for some more interesting insights with, you know, the staff here at Wicked Parley and Rose's wonderful ideas surrounding fan fiction and her knowledge surrounding
I've
it.
got way too many ideas.
Oh yeah. So, you know, the first thing let's just kind of jump into is that,
sure.
you know, what do you think of when you hear of the term fan fiction? Like, what is the thing that, like, you know, jumps right into your head?
The first thing is the common definition, which is stories.
Mm-hmm.
The ones on the sites I mentioned, because that's the majority of it. However, this also covers comics that have been created, and it can even cover fan art.
Okay. What about, like, cosplays?
Cosplays? That's definitely more of a fandom thing than fan fiction, because they're dressing up as, but they can definitely be based on fan fiction.
What about Halo Kitty?
Halo Kitty?
Yeah, Halo Kitty. I mean, it's clearly there's the fandom element of Halo and the fandom element of, you know, Hello Kitty, but yet they have merged them, and there is 100% of cosplay. It is my favorite cosplay I've seen so far.
Oh yeah,
Halo
it's
Kitty.
a great one. But yeah, fiction is more of the on paper, or in this case on internet, version. But it's like stories, comics, anything written and drawn, because the cosplay is kind of based off of those things.
Okay, so it's like an extra way for people to be able to kind of like express themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're gonna get into that a little bit later, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. All right.
So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'd like to know a little bit more about what do you consider to be the differences between a fan fiction, and a fandom.
Okay, so if you want me to go basic, the fan is the person, again, not the electronic.
Yeah.
The fan fiction is a piece of work that's been created to add to the current lore or to give a particular take or spin on what is considered official content, while the fandom is the... what is a good word for it?
Community, perhaps?
It's the... It's the yeah, that's one word for it. It's the community that's built off of the original franchise. It's comprised of the fans. It's comprised of everything they've done.
Now, I have a couple questions about that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to fan fiction themselves, and you were discussing how it potentially builds upon the story, I'm assuming that, like, in some ways you could think of it like universe building. Like you're building out and kind of like, I guess, filling in the potholes of the plot.
Oh, the plot holes, yeah.
Yeah, is this would be a fair thing to say?
That's one version of fan fiction, yes. Sometimes fan fiction will take these plot holes and try to explain them. Kind of the mentality of, if you're not going to explain it, I will.
Okay.
Because at least it's something. It leads for a creative outlook and whatnot. Allows people to think on the what ifs. And there are going to be, of course, fan fiction, which take the original content, make it do a U-turn, and sometimes drive it off a cliff.
Oh my gosh, so like they just destroy the story?
No, sometimes they will take a certain element of a story. Sometimes that can include whether a character died, whether a character lived, whether the character has a certain family relation, that sort of thing, and will completely throw it out the window to see what would happen.
Oh shit.
There are stories. What's one I can think of? I'll get back to that later.
Okay.
But if you can think that something would happen differently because one thing changed, and you write about it or you put it out there for creative writers to have at it, it will more than likely create a fan fiction.
Okay. So I guess that kind of leads into my next question.
Yeah, sure.
In what ways are they interconnected?
What ways are they interconnected? The fan fictions themselves?
Fans, fan fictions, fandoms, the whole thing.
Okay.
Like, obviously, beyond the obvious, they're interested in the same general thing. For instance, like if you're into Halo or you're into Star Wars, something like that.
Alright. So the way they're connected is these ideas get kind of put out there into the universe, onto the internet.
Okay. The
Whether
ether
these
of the
can
internet.
be, yeah. They can be put up as stories, ideas, and whatnot. If you are a part of the fandom and you want to know more about the fandom, whether that's just seeing what other people have thought up for the franchise, what has been expanded upon, what has potentially explained something confusing, like those freaking plot holes, it gives people a chance to connect to each other, because you can obviously be in different parts of the country or even in different continents and be a fan of the same franchise. And you will have found yourself in a group that will oftentimes like the things that you also like. They may dislike the things you like and vice versa. It gives you a community to be able to discuss these things, potentially analyze them, or just have fun enjoying the fandom. Or the franchise.
The silliness that is the stories.
The silliness that is the stories, yes.
All right. I guess my next question is what are some alternative ways that fans of fan fiction can express themselves?
Yeah, sure. This one's actually a fun one. There's this one thing that I find very interesting that is very fun to say. If your fan fiction can inspire other writers, you will actually sometimes get fan fiction that is written about a piece of fan fiction.
So it's inception of fan fiction.
Yes, it is hilarious to think about and to say, because you've got a fan who wrote a fan fiction which inspired fellow fans to write fan fiction about your fan fiction.
Are there any examples of this?
Yes, there's this one artist on Archive of Our Own. They write for the Avatar: The Last Airbender fandom.
Ah.
They have this one story that's about, yes, there's this one story that is about 20 chapters long, 161,000 words, give or take 10,000.
Jesus.
That one fiction piece has inspired 38 different works.
I take it's very good.
Yes. I've reread that one story about 3 times at this point.
Wow, it must be fantastic.
I like it a lot. But you can express yourself for even just fan fiction. You can write fan fiction about it. You can make fan art for it. And oftentimes, if there is artwork provided, some people will actually decide to cosplay as those characters, even if they're not official content.
Ooh, that's pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. And then there are, of course, the other ways to support the writers of those places, whether that's by commenting on it, giving them a kudos, which is just a, you did good job type of thing.
I'm guessing Patreon also plays a role.
Patreon is also a thing. Some artists will definitely have Patreon, and for a lot of artists or authors and whatnot, they have social media where fans can interact with them.
We have a Patreon.
Yes, we do. Don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. It's getting colder.
Yeah, it is getting colder. Very cold. Okay, so I'm curious, what do you think goes into a good fan fiction?
That's a really subjective one. That's a really subjective one, because what I like is going to be different than what other people like and what other people consider good.
Okay, that's fair, but let's just get like a baseline, a template
Sure.
for what that might look like.
So, in my point of view, for the most part, it actually depends on the type of fan fiction. It depends on whether it's a chaptered fic, i.e., it actually has a ton of chapters that go into it, versus one-shots, which are exactly what they sound like. They are meant to be a chapter, just a singular chapter, covering one idea or topic, and that's it.
Okay, and typically how long is a one-shot exactly? Like, if it's one chapter, obviously it's one chapter, but I mean, is this like a number of pages, number of words? Is there even a approximate number to calculate by?
Absolutely not.
My one chapter is 5 words, they fuck.
Yeah, there are actually different terms depending on how short a one-shot is.
Wow.
I have seen one-shots that are anywhere between 100 words short, which are called drabbles, because it's just supposed to be essentially like word vomit.
Okay. Ooh, I'm so excited to see this person.
And they can get as long as, I've seen a one-shot, which was 20,000 words long.
Oh my god. That's not a one-shot. That's a novel.
I know. I know.
Okay,
But it's technically a one-shot.
Did you read it?
Yes.
All 20,000?
Yes, it took a long while, but yes.
I can imagine.
But for the most part, it has some idea of where it's going. It can explore only one idea, sure, but it has an idea of where it's actually going.
All right, well, this kind of, I guess, ties into the next section then. Sometimes there's like a good plot, right? I'm assuming
Yes.
is central to the overall idea. But when it comes to these kind of like, plot lines, we'll call them, or storylines, would you say that character development occurs in a way that is not traditional to the original canon?
It depends on what the original idea is, because there are actually certain tags used for that sort of thing. They are called out-of-character tags, or OOC.
Okay.
And they will often have a character that is out of character and have them develop another way. Or the plot could have actually been something changed as they were being raised, or something in their past that makes them completely different than their original counterpart.
So an OOC an example of this could be like Loki, instead of being a bad guy, is a good guy. And maybe like an example of what you were talking about just now. It was an example of maybe perhaps with Loki and Thor being on good terms rather than, backstabby brother situation.
Yeah, that's definitely one way that's contradictory to the official content, but it, depending on how the story goes, can do some character development.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so some authors will oftentimes change the personalities because, for one, it's kind of hard to keep in touch with the original personality if you're not fully aware of every single detail.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's kind of an opening to see where the story would go had they been a certain way. Like, what if this jackass was actually nice? What if this nice person was actually a dick?
Ah, I see.
It goes either way.
Okay. I'm going to have to assume that the formatting for the writing, in order for you to kind of stick to it, has got to be pretty good, right?
For the most part, yes. If it's a chat fic, grammar goes out the window.
What is the look of something that's acceptable when it comes to grammar?
For me, you don't have to be 100% correct because, for one, English grammar is kind of annoying. Almost nobody knows how to do it properly. There are certain things about English grammar which are very, very, But, for the most part, as long as the grammar is mostly correct, it's not completely jarring as in you're missing punctuations 95% of the time. And as long as you space things out properly, it's typically legible, especially for the longer fan fictions.
Okay.
There are actually some stories where it's written in nothing but lowercase, and that is an author's choice. And sometimes those are nice to read because the capital letters actually do sometimes grind on my brain.
Okay. I just want to see if I hurt your sensibilities yet.
Oh, no. They're just nice little treats, but for the most part, as long as it's not... Let me tell you, for me, personally, if the grammar is absolutely jarring and it's just nothing but caps, as in screaming, it's not that legible because I feel like they're screaming at me. And there's a lot of fan fictions where I've had to bypass reading them despite having a good premise because the entire thing was just one paragraph rather than separate paragraphs.
Seriously, wow.
Mm-hmm. So, despite the premise being good, I don't do well with about 5,000 words in one paragraph alone. That could just be me.
Okay, no, I mean, it totally makes sense to me. I mean, I 100%, I will lose focus, like, instantaneously if someone doesn't have proper grammar. I am terrible at spelling, and English is not my strong suit when it comes to writing anything, but I am 100% a grammar Nazi when I'm reading something. Like, it better be spotless. Otherwise,
Some people have those guidelines for when they read fanfiction, which is why it's like good versus bad is so subjective, because what I consider to be good, if it has slightly off grammar, you might consider to be bad.
Okay, well, what exactly would you say makes a bad fan fiction then?
Oh, Lord Almighty. For me, it's usually if there is no direction it goes for, it's just something completely random. I typically stay away from that. And if it's just so haphazardly made that it's kind of obvious that the author doesn't really care for writing it, I don't think it's bad. I mean, I don't think it's good. That's pretty bad for me. And another thing is, if it's just copy and paste of the original material, there's something about, taking the material and putting your own spin on it, because that's kind of what fanfiction is. For a lot of stories, it's taking the original and seeing what happens if something changes. If it's just copy-paste, you kind of just verbatim plagiarized an official work.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, like, who wants to read the same old story over and over again, right? Make something new. Something shiny.
Make something new, even if just one thing is slightly different.
Yeah, it's just gotta be a tiny bit, I mean,
One small thing can make a big change later.
Like Bruce Wayne, you know, Batman. Okay, yeah, instead of him living in a mansion, maybe he lives in a hut.
Maybe he lives in a hut.
Maybe he lives in a Pizza Hut.
Mm-hmm.
A delicious Pizza Hut. I want pizza.
And then there, of course, is just like, you know, what makes a bad fan fiction is, one, if there's no care put into the work itself. Like, if it's obvious that they don't really care what they're writing, it's not going to be good because they don't care to make it good.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you just straight up copy and plagiarize the official work, that's using it as inspiration, one thing. Taking it, copying it, posting it as your own, that's, I want to hit you.
Yeah. Okay, I am curious about one idea, though.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to characters, obviously if they're different than their canon counterparts, it can be kind of jarring. But I'm assuming that, like, fanfiction honestly has a whole bunch of different loopholes to this, and there's obviously different people have different tendencies. But I'm curious to know, like, is there an example of a character being so different and so jarring that it actually makes itself bad?
There are a couple of instances, yes. I typically don't read those to the full extent because it's that jarring. It's pretty much the time that makes it go from a decent fanfiction to a bad fanfiction for me is if the change is so drastic and there's no explanation for it or a warning about it. Because if there's like, is it important to the plot? Is it explained as a change in their history? That sort of thing. Like those types of character changes I can handle. If it's just they went from state A to state B in the next chapter with no explanation in between, I'm like, what did you just do?
Seems like there's something missing. Just hearing that makes me kind of like seem like I'm losing interest already.
Because this is like, yeah, it's a fan fiction, but a lot of people like these stories because they make some semblance of sense. It doesn't have to make 100%
Hey, I'm
sense
sorry,
because that's fiction.
Okay, no, I don't have to disagree with you. Okay, if there is any world where Batman and Superman kiss, okay, that is 100% not. No way, no.
and that's your choice.
Exactly. That's a choice. I'm gonna go away now.
Just make sure to keep that blacklisted.
All right. Well, I think we need to go on break now.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll see you guys all in 2 minutes.
Yep. See you then.
Hello and welcome back. All right. So where we last left off, Post was wrong about children. No, anyways, no. Calling you out, man. You can't legally hold any of these. I don't give. Sorry. Anyways,
All right.
back to the thing. So, we were talking about fan fiction. We were talking about how fan fiction there were some good things, some bad things.
Yeah.
I am interested in understanding a few other elements of fan fiction, so bear with me for a few questions, if that's okay with you.
I read way too many for my own good.
Too many?
Mhm.
Is that such a thing? Really?
To some people maybe.
I don't ever think reading is bad. I'm sorry, I just can't. Even if it's fan fiction, I think reading is just it stretches your mind. Anyways.
Yeah, it is.
So, all right. The first question I have for you is what is so attractive about fan fiction, whether that is created or if it's read? Like, what is the thing that draws you?
What draws me is sometimes I have an idea and I wonder, has somebody already made it? So I go looking for it. And sometimes I find it, sometimes I don't. That's one thing. Another thing is sometimes it's interesting to see somebody else's ideas come to life, come to fruition. And some of those authors sure to feel like they could write a novel.
I see. Huh.
Some of them actually have. As for creating it, it's fun to get those creative ideas out, see where your ideas go. Sometimes you don't always finish a project, which is fine because it's like these are your projects. You decide when they're finished or not. But it's fun to kind of take your ideas and put them somewhere, even if it doesn't go published. As for reading the different scenarios and what people create with like the same starting point as you, but they go off on a completely different way, completely different pathway. It's very interesting to see what people can come up with.
I see that. Yeah, I totally agree with you when it comes to that. I always find it so interesting how two different people can start at the same point, but can reach completely different outcomes. I mean, like in psychology, there's a whole bunch of examples of that.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah.
So I love those fanfic. I love those creative writing contests. You can take the same prompt with the same characters, and you will get two completely different stories.
And they're wonderful.
And they're absolutely wonderful if done correctly.
If done correctly.
Not even correctly, just done well.
Indeed. I have some other questions when it comes to this.
Yeah, of course.
What does fan fiction do for the people that are involved in it, do you think? Do you think that the people get some sort of general positive like impact or feeling?
I believe so, because a lot of people want people to also like their ideas. It makes them feel good about themselves, like they did something positive and to add to the franchise. It's also a way for people to connect, because you're going to find people that will like what you like and will also dislike what you dislike, and sometimes you can make good friends out of that. And of course, it's a way to let out some steam. There are these types of fan fictions which are called comfort fics, and there's two actual definitions for that itself. One is the genre, which is hurt and comfort, where you hurt a character and then comfort the character. The other is the author may have a situation in real life that they are getting stressed about, so they decide to write their scenario out into the franchise and give the characters a happy ending if they want to feel happy, or give them a bad ending to get all the negative emotions out.
Oh my god.
There are some characters where a person can sometimes think, I want everything bad to happen to you.
Oh no.
Or vice versa, I want everything good to happen to you. And it just depends on how they want to write out what happens and how they feel about it. If they want a happy ending, sometimes they'll write a happy ending, or sometimes they just want to cry.
Alright, edgelords. Let all your pent-up frustrations out now.
But yeah, people can meet other people who are like-minded. They can discuss with people, they can analyze with people, they can meet new people, and they can use fan fiction to let out their emotions that they may not be able to release in their actual lives.
Okay. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, I think it's fascinating to see that there's a community element to this that allows for a level of, I guess, self-expression, maybe even introspection to some extent, which was really nice to see just in any form of creative writing, which I think is an important element. But I think that it's even greater that it can be expressed in so many diverse sets of ways, and in a way that causes people to become interested and intrigued, rather than withdrawing and just having, muttering in the corner, as it were.
Yeah.
I am another one I'm kind of interested in. Is do you think that there are elements of fan fiction that are not creative? Like, are there certain things about fan fiction that perhaps, people think is creative, but it actually is not?
The main obvious one, the one I despise with passion, is something I've mentioned earlier, which is the straight copy-paste.
Okay.
There's the straight copy-paste, no change done, you just took the original work and decided to claim it as your own. That's not being creative, that's just being a copycat.
You're like, this story, it seems to be doing pretty well, it's mine now.
That is actually a thing, not only for original content, but also for fanfiction writers themselves.
Oh my god.
Some fanfiction writers have had their works stolen and posted elsewhere under a different username for somebody to claim as theirs.
Wow.
Just as there is good in these fandoms, there is also bad.
You think it's like trolls just trying to start a fight, or is it like people actually like being vindictive?
It could honestly be either or, because it's like, yes, you have usernames, which are essentially your pseudonym online. Everybody has them. And if you know the person, it could be a vindictive. If you don't know the person, it might be just a troll or somebody who doesn't like you because you're being successful.
Stop being successful. Let me just steal your stuff.
It sometimes does that.
Jeez.
Because there are plenty of things that could be considered uncreative until you make it creative. So there are things such as self-inserts, where you insert yourself into the story, and depending on how you do so, could be considered creative or not. Such as, are you just a side, or did you make yourself into the story as a side character to just help the protagonist? Or are you a Mary Sue?
I see. So, when it comes to stories, I mean, like, what happens if you're in the story, right? But like, you're retelling the story as if you're a person on the outside looking, like you're a janitor with a mop or something. You're like, hey, Spider-Man just came through the hallway and just fucked it all up. Now I'm gonna sit here mopping out these bastards and like hate Spider-Man. Like, like that sounds.
Well, sometimes those are actually pretty darn entertaining because it is a look that has not been covered in the original content.
Okay.
There are plenty of times where a complete side character actually has an interesting point of view because it's one that hasn't already been established. It's one that you can do whatever the heck you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like if you decide to make it boring, it's not it's like it's a creative element, not as creative as it could be. Or you could make them absolutely, like for your example with the janitor. You could have him be a janitor, be completely frustrated with these darn superheroes that are always leaving messes behind and they don't even clean it up. Like how colossal are these messes?
Or the guy who spills coffee on his pants and he misses work on the day that the helicarrier gets destroyed.
And then, like, sometimes you could have him be very grateful for the protagonist, or you could have him become a villain.
Ah, okay. That seems fun. That seems fun. Okay, let's jump to another set of questions. Are you a part of any of these fandoms? And if so, which ones?
Let's see. Currently, I mostly read stuff for Final Fantasy 15, the Minecraft YouTube community. That's a fun one. There's also Genshin Impact, and there's the Haikyuu that I've been recently reading stories for. Those are just the recent ones, though. I have read plenty of fanfiction for so many series.
I see. Okay. So then, when it comes to fandoms,
Yes.
you know, like I'm assuming that means you're interested in the Genshin fandom.
Mm-hmm.
You're interested in the Airbender, the last Airbender situation, that fandom. The Final Fantasy 15 fandom. So I mean, these are all elements. So those are things that you enjoy them. What specifically do you actually enjoy about those particular fandoms? Like if you had
It's
to pinpoint.
honestly, if I had to pinpoint one thing, it would be the creativity that these people who enjoy and see the same things I do and take it to a whole other level.
Mhm.
The stories that these people create, if they weren't based off of actual original material, I could consider them to be novels and whatnot.
Mhm.
Like they are their own story. It's the creativity that draws me in, along with how some these authors and artists actually sometimes interact with the rest of the fandom. Some of them are like they enjoy the fandom because they truly enjoy the fandom and they want to interact and have fun with it, and they want to have other people have fun in this franchise's fandom.
Mhm.
And then of course you get the people that are dicks, but every fandom has their
You got
their
those, yeah.
assholes.
100%. Okay. Well then let's
Don't you dare host.
no. And let's go ahead and go on break, huh? What do you think?
Sure.
All right. So we'll see you guys in 2 minutes, and
Yep.
hopefully the Cup of Noodle Boys will be gone.
See you then.
And we're back. Okay, so we've learned a lot about fan fiction. I feel like I'm starting to become an expert on this stuff now.
Well, I'm glad I'm not confusing you further.
No. Confusion is not, so.
Confusion is my constant state of being.
Indeed. Okay. Well, hey, that's your thing. So this time, we're gonna be talking about fan fiction.
This time on Wicked Parley.
All right. So I think the thing I want to know is that why do you think fandoms are so large and diverse? Do you think that just because everyone loves something about all the things that are created, and that people just don't ever stop liking things?
I think they are large and diverse because the original content, the franchise itself, is going to reach out to people in a number of ways, whether that's personal, emotional, cognitive, community-wise, those sorts of things, people will be able to connect to a franchise one way or another, whether it's in a positive way or a negative way, I'm not quite sure. But with the help of the internet, you're going to be able to find a community for that franchise. Whether it's small or large depends on how widely known the franchise is. As we can see with some franchises like Marvel, Halo, Star Wars,
Power Rangers.
Pokemon, Power Rangers. The more media it spreads across, the more people it's able to reach. And you will get within a franchise's fandom will be individual communities depending on what they appreciate. Like, take Pokemon, for instance. You've got people who are fans of the games, you've got people fans of the manga, the books, the trading card game, the show, and even the show has its own categories, because you've got the main series and every single spin-off.
Did you mention movies?
Not yet. But those two.
Yes. I 100% I agree with you, because I was introduced to the fandom primarily through the video games, then the trading cards, then the TV show, even though the TV show was first.
Why is Ash still 10?
I'll tell you why. Mewtwo killed his ass. That's why. Everything's been a total nightmare.
I'll say nightmare rather than dream, because he still hasn't hit champion status yet, except for, like, what, Orange Islands?
We're not even gonna go there. Like, we're not gonna go there.
But that's just one example of many.
Pokemon, the ultimate bait and switch.
But yeah, these franchises are able to reach out to people, and because of the internet and because of how widespread the internet is, you're going to be able to find a community if you look.
Okay.
And if a fandom is large enough, it will spread it to other people, because my friends introduce me to new franchises all the time and vice versa.
I mean, I can think of a great way in which franchises have actually interacted with one another in a way that made something awesome. I'm a big fan of the Ready Player One book. Not so much the movie. The movie's not bad, but like, it's not, I like the book more.
Okay, sure.
But it incorporates so many different, like, you know, things that have hugely famous franchises. I mean, it's
so
pop
many
culture.
Easter eggs.
It's pop culture explodes on the screen.
So many Easter eggs.
Yeah, and so like, I mean, I can definitely see how that could interact with things, and I really like how that like kind of affected things. I mean, the idea of a universe where you could have Master Chief on the Enterprise.
Halo Chief. But yeah, the fandoms are large and diverse because they are able to reach people, and they even connect to each other, like what you mentioned before with Ready Player One. It had so many connections to so many other things. Those are usually like little nods to other good works.
Yeah, I'll be 1,000%. Ready Player One reads like a giant fanfiction.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it.
So anyways,
yeah.
All right. So when it comes to specific fandoms, why do you think more people don't join them?
Why do I think more people do not join them?
Yeah. Why do you think that there's like a huge stigma around? I know I kind of created a question, I know. But why do you think there's like a stigma around certain people? Like, I know a ton of people. I'll give you an example. Okay. So obviously I'm in college, and I've been in college for a while. And
Yes.
a while back, I was in a class where there was a lot of talkative, you know, I'd say young women who were all super interested in Supernatural. They loved Supernatural. But none of them struck me as I'm going to be part of a fandom, because of one incident. A girl approached them who heard them talking and was all very excited. And this was clearly someone who was a fan fiction convention type person. And the girls acted as if she was like a bizarre creature for liking the same thing. And so I just kind of was wondering, like, why do you think there might be some people who basically clearly like something that's like, you know, huge and impactful, but maybe don't want to join the fandom?
I believe it has to deal with the person themselves along with a particular fandom, because there are some fandoms which are absolutely batshit insane. They go crazy, they go insane, and sometimes they have a bad rep to them, and they're the ones that get the most notoriety, and they're the ones that get a lot of attention because they are so loud.
Can you give me an example of one?
I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but this one's the one that usually gets a visceral reaction.
Okay.
Furries.
I like furries. Furries are cute.
Yes, they are. They can be very, very cute. However, they have a bad rep.
What's the rap? I've never heard this.
Okay, when I say furries, it's not like cute little pets and stuff.
Oh no, I mean people dressed up like animals. I got you.
Yeah, like the full fursuit.
Yeah, I got you. 100%.
Okay, making sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, we're on the same page.
For a lot of people, they have a bad rep.
Okay, once again, why?
Which is essentially the most common one I hear is that essentially they are listed as animal fuckers.
Right.
It's not obviously true for quite a number of them, but because that rep is so spread, it can sometimes lead to a bad reputation, even if it's not true.
Okay. Alright.
And because of these loud, negative instances, some people can be turned off from the idea of the fandom, especially if something like that is actually known about that particular fandom.
Gotcha. So basically, like certain fandoms can have stigmas that prevent people from wanting to be a part of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because quite a number of people care about their reputation.
Sure. Yeah. You don't want to be that person's like, yeah, I go home and I rub my nipples with hot dogs. Like, that's not the thing you want.
On the personal side of things, they may not want to be a part of the larger community. They may just want to be part of the community, but only with their close friends.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So they may not want to talk with some random stranger about the topic that they like, but they're fully willing to talk with their friends about it because
So they kind of
it's a level of trust.
So they build a subgroup around the subject, then, huh?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I guess the next thing I want to discuss is what's the actual chances that a fandom can influence content creators? Like, let's say hypothetically, like Marvel, Dragon Ball Z, etc. Right? How often or how likely do you think that the fandom has impacted those particular franchises?
I don't think it's as rare as some people explain or expect, because there are instances where what the community has wanted has fully affected the official content. The one example I have that is clear-cut is when Minecraft decides to host polls about what gets added to the game.
I want a dragon.
Yeah, pretty much. So, if a well-known content creator in the fandom says something, their fans can make a big difference. It's what happened with the glow squid in Minecraft.
Okay.
I think you've mentioned actually a couple of instances to me because I wasn't a part of that particular fandom, but it actually worked as examples. You mentioned something about an angel in Supernatural?
Oh, yeah. Everyone's favorite angel basically was supposed to die at the end of season 5 or 6, and instead made it pretty much to the end. Like, he was in all the seasons after that. And it just kept on coming back, too, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of coming back, Loki from Marvel.
Yeah.
Supposed to be a villain.
Somehow turned anti-hero, then dies, then gets resurrected through time travel mischief.
Yep. So there are plenty of times, not completely like common, because otherwise it would be a clusterfuck.
Yes, it would.
Can you imagine how chaotic it would be if the fans had complete control? No.
I want to say a couple things before we end the episode.
Yeah,
of course, I'm sure, there's one thing I want to say is that to host last time on Justin Bullshit, he attempts to go for child. In the next episode, Justin cries for the failure of not getting child. Anyways, yeah. So that's yeah.
So yeah, before we go, actually, I have a couple of things to add.
Okay.
I actually want people who are watching this episode now or later to put in the comment section what's your favorite fandom that you're a part of. And if you happen to read fan fiction, what's your favorite one? Heck, even what sites do you use? Because I'm always up for looking for new stories. And finally, if you do like the episode, it'd be awesome if you could like, comment, and subscribe, and share with your friends. Anything else you want to add?
I just want to second all of that, but just know that like that is the best way. I feel like we're gonna get so many people subscribing now.
But yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next time, everybody. Later.